It is interesting to note that bees don't eat nectar or pollen directly. Both these food sources for the brood are first processed by the bees. Nectar, which contains bee spit enzymes, is dehydrated into honey. Pollen has nectar and bee enzymes, spit, added by foraging bees in the field and is then processed in the hive by adding honey. A little known fact is that bees coat the pollen with a thin layer of wax to seal it away from oxygen. I have smelled the fermentation scent from pollen and was puzzled if it was still safe for the bees to eat. Indeed, it is good for them, and the fermentation is deliberate. The anaerobic lactic fermentation process converts the mixture to bee bread, which enriches it with nutrients and makes it much more digestible for the larva and the bees. There are two types of fermentation that create bee bread: a good bacteria, Lactobacillus conchial, and beneficial yeast. The bacterial process of fermentation eats the fructose, sugar, in the pollen, which reduces its starch and creates lactic acid. This lowers the pH of the pollen, which allows for the beneficial yeast to grow. The low pH and the yeast helped preserve the bee bread from spoilage. This preservation of their food is important because bees will need this bee bread to eat during the long months of winter and into early spring. Research on the chemical composition of bee bread shows that it is made up of water, protein, free amino acids, carbohydrates, fatty acids, and other bioactive molecules. Bee bread can vary from region to region because of the climate and seasonal variations where the plants grow. This information from Margarita Lopez Urib is a Lorenzo L. Langstroth Early Career Professor at Penn State University, Department of Entomology. This information is on YouTube. Stay tuned for part 2 tomorrow. We're going to look at the effects of pesticides and formic acid on bee bread.